So, hey, and welcome back to the Expert Edge. I'm so stoked to have you here. Today, we're going to be doing something that's quite different. I haven't done this for a while. I'm actually going to be bringing on my better half, my amazing wife, who is also the co-CEO, strategic officer, people developer, marketing entrepreneur. I'm going to be bringing her into this conversation. And first of all, you're going to hear us interact, which is hopefully you're going to enjoy it. But second of all, I think you're going to take a lot of value from the lessons that we bring. So we're going to unpack together 9 lessons from our year that have helped us to grow our business, to create an amazing life with our family, and just to reflect on it in terms of what's worked and what hasn't worked as well this year. I think you're going to get a lot of value from it. So let's get into it, the episode with Sarah and myself. Hey, it's Colin, and you are listening to the Expert Edge podcast. I was a professional speaker for over a decade, and now I focus on helping coaches, speakers, and course creators to speak and sell on virtual and live stages. The Expert Edge podcast is weekly content focused on helping you build your expert business. We cover marketing, storytelling, sales, communication skills, and so much more. Thanks for taking the time to tune in, and make sure you subscribe and follow us on all our social channels so you don't miss a thing. Let's listen to today's episode. All right, babe, welcome to the Expert Edge.
Thanks. Hi.
All right, so this is one of the revelations you're going to have today, because I know that you probably listen to the Expert Edge episodes and think, wow, Colin is amazing. Look, even if you don't have that conclusion, that's like what's going on in my mind.
Always.
But by the end of this episode, I think you're going to go, okay, I can see why Colin's amazing, because his wife is absolutely incredible. And so, babe, I want to welcome you back to the Expert Edge.
That's very sweet. I'm excited to be here. And nervous, because I feel like you always play tricks on me. So I'm not sure what's about to happen.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a really cool conversation for people to hear into your mind and into how our minds work together. So really the purpose of today is to reflect on some lessons, and we have 9. Is that right?
I think so. I think it's a two-part
Yeah,
series.
correct.
Yeah,
correct. Yeah. She's always right, by the way. So that's one of the lessons. One of the lessons for all
marriage too. Say your wife is right.
That is correct, babe.
Even if she's not, it makes her happy to hear it.
That's right. That phrase, "you are right."
Yes.
It sits really well in our relationship.
That's so true.
So we are going to cover 9 lessons from this year. It's going to be 2 parts. So we'll cover the first couple and then the second part. So it's going to be good. Lesson number 1, do you want to read that out, babe, what that is? The first lesson from this year.
Of what we've learned in business.
Of what we've learned in business, and some a little bit of life. We're going to have a little bit of marriage stuff, but we're going to have mainly business stuff.
Yeah, because we've been running a business together for a while.
Yeah.
I feel like we do this at the end of each year.
Well, let's talk about that, because I feel like a lot of people don't know this, because basically when I was running my business and I was very much like a single practitioner, I would go and speak, I would travel, I would do coaching. And in all honesty, I was very protective of
that's a good way of explaining
of not having anyone's opinions come into how I should run my business. And when I say protective, it was basically of you.
Yeah.
In terms of, I was like, no, I'm the one who runs the business. This is how it's done. And I was very kind of rigid in that. And then we had a big conversation. And
it was kind of after we moved to the States.
Yeah.
We moved here and we kind of changed the delivery model a lot.
I feel like we had to make a big pivot, and we've had many pivots in our business. I've been running the business for like 16 years now, and you have been like, I would say, directly involved as basically the co-CEO of the business, strategically, team, marketing. Like, your brain is the X factor for what's happened in our business, and it's our partnership together.
Yeah.
So when was that?
It was 2018.
Okay. So 2018, we decided, we were like, we are better together than me just kind of running the business by myself.
Yes.
And I feel like it was from that moment that we really started to build a big audience and get trajectory and marketing. Your marketing mind is honestly incredible. And what a lot of people don't know, Sarah actually built an amazing community, which she still runs. It's called Resilient Little Hearts. So if anyone is interested in learning about emotional intelligence, resilience, building that into your kids and into yourself as an adult even, she runs Resilient Little Hearts. It's got like how many followers now? Like 250,000 or something, or 1.2 million.
It's not that many, but yeah.
No, how many? How many is it?
220.
220,000.
Yeah.
220,000. And we realized, I was like, oh my gosh, like you have got this incredible gift in messaging, marketing, and we combine superpowers together.
Yeah, I feel like that was, it's very kind of what you're saying, but I feel like I wouldn't be a superpower by myself. I feel like it's the combination of us together.
Yeah.
Because you're so good at conversion and content. And
that's true.
Yeah. I always say to Colin, I wish I could live in his brain because his self-talk is probably the most positive I've ever met of anyone in my life.
It's a humble confidence.
It's a humble confidence. But I just always like, gosh, it must feel nice to live in your mind.
Yeah. Like I was joking with like how when we go to an event, my thoughts are literally, gosh, everyone is going to love us. Like when we're going together, I'm like, they're going to love meeting us. Yeah. You know, they're going to love meeting me. They're going to love meeting us. And you joke, you're like, oh my gosh, can I be in your mind for this event?
The model changed. I feel like, earlier than that, as a solo practitioner, you were basically going into corporates or speaking on stages. And I feel like there was less of a need of a business structure that we have now.
Yeah, because we weren't as focused on online stuff.
Yeah, correct.
It was very manual delivery, which was great at the time until it wasn't.
Yeah, I feel like it was when we started having kids, we started questioning whether it's what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like in terms of scaling the business and what that would mean for our family life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that really it's so important to think about when you're building your expert business that you don't build your business into something that you don't want.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to do that because especially, when you're starting out trying to get momentum, obviously your main focus is probably how do I make some money? Like, how do I get leads? How do I make money? And that's like one of the first, like, how do I actually get some conversions happening? But once you kind of work that out, it is still easy to kind of build a business into what you didn't want. Yeah, and we've had many evolutions of that.
Yeah, because I think when something starts working, you just lean into it more.
Yeah.
And it requires more energy. And if it's the thing that's making the revenue in your business, you just kind of think, well, I just need to keep, it feels scary to pivot again. But it's so true because, I always believe that businesses, I know you talk about it as well, but the business should serve you and your life as much as you serve other people.
Yes.
Otherwise, the risk and the hard days is not really worth it if it's not also really setting up what you want to do with your life.
Yeah. Now, I will say that like in starting and getting momentum in the business, like there's a lot of grunt work. There's a lot of grind work. And I do feel like there is a messaging in the Zygest out there in the, I don't even know, is that even a word?
I've never heard you say that.
I try to be a bit more sophisticated when I'm on the podcast. Like the meta language out there is like, you don't have to work really to actually have a business.
That's not true at all.
But it's a lot of work. Like it's a lot of grind. But I will say that if you do the work and you get good at what you do and you start to position yourself in the marketplace, it can offer you some incredible freedoms and some incredible opportunities. So let's talk about some of the lessons we learned this year.
Yeah.
Because this year's been interesting. 2024, I feel like every other person I talk to is like, it's been amazing. We've had a record year. And then the other person is, we're down 30% revenue. It's kind of been a bit of a mix. So do you want to talk to that and then talk about the first idea?
Well, in talking to that, I think that the market has shifted. We saw a really big shift of the market around 2020 with all of the changes in people's lives and everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And there was a huge shift in the market then that you really had to adjust to. But I do feel like the market is shifting again at the moment. And so for some people, that's been new news, or some people saw it coming and have adjusted. So I think that's kind of the context of 2024 a little bit.
Yeah.
So the first principle that we wrote down lesson that we really learned this year was to do more of what works. I think when you're at a certain threshold in your business and you have things that are converting and working, as an entrepreneur, you can start to think, well, what else could I do? Maybe I could add on this and this different offering. But actually, the lesson that's really worked for us, especially this year and the last few years, is to lean even more into what's working. So if you've got a launch or a funnel that's working, spending more, hiring team to be able to run that more aggressively and intensely. If you've got events that are converting, actually running them more. Of like, rather than shiny object syndrome, is like doing more of what works.
Yeah. So it's like, it's actually looking back, and I feel like this is a great marketing principle as well. Like, I mean, you've taught me this, to be frank, in social media.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I'll come to you and I'll be like, okay, what should we do with strategy, social media? And you're like, well, let's scroll back into our Instagram and just look at what got the most views, what got the most shares, what got the most likes. Let's do another version of that.
Yeah.
And I get this question a lot actually with my students in Sell from Sage Elite. Like they'll ask me, they'll be like, oh, Colin, we just ran this webinar. It did, $25,000. It's the best webinar we've ever ran. I'm thinking about launching a new program now, like maybe like a higher tier program. And I'm usually like, whoa. Yeah. Okay, so you just had your best webinar ever, made 25 grand. How about we run that again, exactly the same, and maybe take the lessons from what you learned in the last webinar. Let's run that again in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think even in our business, like we fell into that a bit this year of going like, we were looking at ways to grow and scale the business. And I was looking for all these new strategies. And we actually had a friend of ours go, well, what's worked? What's worked in the past? And we were like, well, there's a particular event that we run.
I love that you say it was a friend.
Why?
Because I was the one, I said it to you before.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is a whole nother conversation.
Gosh.
Basically, this is how our life works.
Keep my things to it. I feel like now
No, this is how it works. Sarah says something to me and I say no. I say that's wrong. Yeah. That's not going to work. And then a friend or another advisor or something says the same thing to me, and I'm be like, that's exactly what we need to do.
The best idea.
Yeah. And you're like, can I just remind you that I said that to you 4 months ago?
I feel like this is a marriage thing though, because I feel like every single person who's married would be able to relate to that.
Yeah. But how good am I at just going, you're right? I do humble myself.
You're a very humble, like, you know what? Confident, amazing person.
No, I go, look, you're right. You actually did say it.
Yeah.
And I still needed to hear it from that person.
Yeah, you need to hear it from other people. So, I'm learning
So it's not full points for me, but, I come around. And I'm learning more and more to just basically listen to what you say. So, someone said to us, they were like, well, you've done that before in the past. Why don't you just do that more? And we were doing it like twice a year. And they're like, why don't you just do that every month? Or more often? Or another version of that same thing, but do it more often. And so I think the lesson here is a lot of the time as entrepreneurs, you're looking for the next shiny thing. You're looking, okay, that's worked. Now I've got to launch the next program or the higher ticket program or the next level program. And the truth is that you really should just stay focused on what's working.
Yeah, and do it as many times as you possibly can.
As many times as you possibly can.
Can you build team around it? Can you then automate it?
Yeah.
Can you activate it even more and just do the same thing? But I think something that you talk a lot to your clients about is it's much easier to build new audience than it is to keep creating new programs and offerings.
100%. So learning how to generate more leads. And because a lot of times people get stuck with that. They actually think it's easier to create a new program than to find a new audience, but it's actually not.
It's not.
When I say find a new audience, what I mean is find more of the same audience.
Correct,
but just in other areas. And so that could be Facebook ads, it could be affiliates, it could be learning how to do social media better, partnerships, all that sort of stuff, which we'll talk about soon.
Yeah, because you're in your own business so much and you're talking about your topic of expertise so much, you just think everyone's heard it, but they really have not. There's so much more growth.
Well, I mean, we've got friends in mastermind programs that we're in, and they run the same presentation every week. And they're running like a $6 to $8 million expert coaching business. The same freaking presentation every single week. So spending more time on what works and focusing on what works. And that principle.
Doing more of it.
Just doing more of it. So if you've got a webinar or presentation that's working, if you've got a sales process that's working, just look at how can I do more of that? How can I, like, learning to scale that up? So learning how to run ads to it, finding more audiences, finding more affiliates, all that sort of stuff. And that will actually grow and scale the business. So are we happy with that? Number one?
That's great. You did a great
Love it. Thank you. Number two, and this has been a big one for us because every season requires different perspective. And when you're in a season where you're fully focused on like just building momentum, like we've had seasons in our business, in our life where we've like the word is momentum.
Yeah.
And that has required a lot of focus, a lot of time, like working evenings, working nights, working weekends.
Yeah.
I know for me, I remember when we launched Sell From Stage Academy and I was literally working from 6 a.m. till like 9 p.m. at night.
7 days.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
When I was launching Sell From Stage Academy and delivering it. Do you remember I was like, I'm going to do 6 coaching sessions to deliver Sell From Stage Academy. And then 13 coaching sessions later within the same time frame, I'm still going, I don't know if I can fit it all in. Right. It was just so intense. And so I want to give this context, first of all, is that different seasons require different perspectives. But the principle we wanted to talk about is the fact that you should define what success looks like in your season. Because I think it's very easy to look online and just define success based on what's online. But you also have to take perspective and go like, what does success look like for us as a family, as an individual in this season of our life? So you want to speak to that?
Yeah. I mean, we were in a very, I would say, privileged position this year where we had the freedom and resource and team support to actually make the decision that we were going to take quite a lot of family trips and vacation this year. And so we've been really like blessed. We were being able to take 12 trips together as a family from different theme parks in America to we got to take, which was kind of like my 40th belated birthday trip to the UK.
Yeah, we did London. We did the UK.
London. And we spent quite a lot of time together as a family because we had really felt like we wanted to prioritize that. Our kids are starting to hit the age of middle school and we're just aware that we wanted to spend that time together as a family. And I love that you framed that up at the beginning because we've also had seasons where the business has required all in.
Yeah.
And all in looks like we're working public holidays, we're working at night after the kids
I'm always
go
like,
to bed.
Is there a public holiday?
Right.
Like my team will remind me, like, are we off on Monday? I'm like, what's Monday? I'm like, Monday's just the next day. But that's fine. Like, it's more just what's required.
But I think it comes back to is like, it's obviously something that I teach in my other community, but emotional and soul health is incredibly important to us. Our family is incredibly important to us. It's why we've made pretty dramatic pivots over the years. And when we've gone through, say, a season, there was quite a few years ago when the business wasn't up to the level that it is at, but it was still at a level where it was making money for us to live on. We had gone through a lot with scaling that business and I'd gone through a lot of health challenges and we made a decision, hey, next year we're going to have a year of space. So we're still going to run the business, we're still going to do everything, but we're not going to aggressively try to grow it. And I think it's really easy as a high achieving entrepreneur believing in vision and goals to always feel like, well, what's the next growth?
Like it has to grow. Like,
yes.
Yeah, like if we don't grow the business, then this year has been a failure. And I think that was a really nice season of going, okay, let's just actually not worry about trying to grow the business. Obviously, we'll still run it as it is, but let's focus more on getting emotional space, time off, that sort of stuff. And
kind of recalibrate our lives so that you have emotional energy to go again. And so for our season this year, because of our kids' ages and all of the support that we've been able to build up over the past 3 or 4 years, we were actually able to take those trips. And I think it would have been easy for us to get into a mindset of like, well, we could have grown even more this year if we didn't do that, or if we put that money that we put aside for travel people into just Facebook ads or something like that. And I say all that in the context
and
of...
I do struggle with that, by the way, sometimes. I'm like, gosh, we could have grown. Like, this is defining what success looks like for this season, because it's not going to be for every season.
And I will say we still spent a lot of money on Facebook ads.
Yeah.
So it wasn't...
And the business still grew.
And our business
We're at
still
about
grew.
25% revenue growth for the year on last year.
So, and I know, hopefully sharing that is not, to make anyone feel bad, because we've taken 15 years to get the business to this point.
Totally.
So if you're newer in your journey or you're in year 1 or 2,
we've built team and systems to scale without us pushing anymore.
Yes.
And that's because we've learned how to actually market properly, how to actually sell properly at a scalable level.
And we've hired an incredible
team.
We've hired
an incredible team, which we'll talk about soon.
So the lesson we learned, and it was kind of reiterated to us again this year, is to make sure you're defining what success looks like for your season.
Yeah. And I think, this podcast is coming out close to the end of the year. Coming into next year, I think it's a great time for everyone to go, what does success look like next year? What's the focus? What's the context? What are we more focused? Are we focused on revenue growth? Are we focused on creating more free time? Are we focused on your health? I know I've had some other friends who their focus has come off the business a bit, and it's focused on like their marriage or their friendships, because that's kind of what's required. And because there's nothing balanced about being an entrepreneur.
No.
There's nothing balanced. Like, you're not going to have a balanced life. And so a lot of the times you're kind of pushing super hard one direction.
Yeah, and I think it's important to every now and again take a step back and ask yourself, is every area of my life moving in the trajectory that I want it? Not just the business.
Yeah.
Is my, if you've got kids, is my relationship with my kids? If you're married, is my relationship with that? How's my health? Because you really can place everything on the altar of the business and kind of sacrifice everything to make it happen.
Yeah.
And there are some short seasons that require that in order to get something started or to launch. But I think the thing is, as an entrepreneur, it's easy to stay in that state and not pull back out of it and
that
go, okay, we're not in a crisis anymore, or we're not in an actual
You could
launch.
almost get into just as a trance of just pushing. Like, you literally don't question why you're pushing so hard as an entrepreneur. And so, it's more just taking that time to reflect and go like, what does this season look like? So this season for us has looked like taking a lot of vacations. And actually we just put up a reel that Sarah put together, which was cool, of like just a whole bunch of like videos and experiences we had.
The backs of our kids' heads.
The backs of our kids' heads,
because
we don't put them on social media.
And all that sort of... It kind of looks like we don't have a family.
Yeah. Well, do you know what's funny, babe? Like, when you search Colin Boyd, it actually says Colin Boyd's wife. Who is Colin Boyd's wife?
I'm famous.
Yeah.
People are searching for me.
Well, they don't know who you are. Like, they're more going like, I don't share much family stuff on social. Like, I share a little bit of you, but not a whole bunch, obviously, of the kids and stuff. And so.
Well, I'm here.
Yeah.
Welcome. Hi, guys.
Which is great. So now they're getting to know you even more. I mean, your community knows you, but it's good. Number 3. So this is a big one, because I feel like, once again, in the context of seasons, obviously we've been traveling a lot this year, but we've also got a lot going on. Just because we're traveling doesn't mean we're like carousing.
We definitely did a bit too much.
Yeah, like it was like too much. Now, I will say we actually had an experience, kind of sounds like a massive flex because it is.
Yeah.
We did like 3.5 weeks in Europe and we came home and we were exhausted.
Look, guys, I basically, I'm a typical woman and I was excited for this trip, so I overplanned it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, we had something on every second of the day.
I was just like, everyone keep going. We've got another literary tour.
We're doing like Stonehenge, then we're doing like some author's house, and like it was like nonstop. And it was amazing. But we got home and we're like absolutely exhausted.
Yeah.
And we were like, we need a vacation to recover from that vacation. And so, but normally you talk about it and you're like, yeah, but we can't do that. So we've got to get back into it. But we literally went online and we booked Cabo like 7 days later. And then we did 10 days in Cabo.
Yeah.
Which was like, I was like, oh man, we so needed that to recover from the... I know it's a massive flex.
That's a massive flex.
Massive vacation flex. But
maybe people hate us now.
Yeah. But I will say, in the midst of that, we were doing some work.
I feel like it's important to define... If you're an Australian and someone says a holiday or vacation, that means you're not working at all.
At all, yeah.
Yeah.
But we were working. Like we might do an hour a day.
Since moving here, I've learned that it's not actually
We've definitely
pushed.
We've pushed harder since moving to the US. But we're busy, is what I'm saying. Like, we've got a lot on. The kids obviously got a lot on, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot going on. And the third lesson, and this is a big one, guys, I really want you to get this, is that there is never a good time to do something. And I think that you can always find a reason why it's not a good season or a good time. Now, I get that sometimes it like truly isn't a good time. Like maybe you've just had a massive health diagnosis and like you're in bed, you cannot move. Like, and so maybe, there are extenuating circumstances. But I would say like, 90% of the time, when you don't think it's a good time to do it, you're not going to come 12 months later and be like, actually, we've got so much time and space and energy, and I just feel so fresh.
Yeah.
Like I just feel so refreshed. And so we have got so much energy to launch this new project or this new program. Like there's never going to be a good time. What's been our journey with that, babe?
Yeah, I feel like for me, and I mean, you could speak for you, but this particular year has been a huge capacity increase for me. Behind the scenes in my other work that I do, I had been working towards and was offered a book contract for a few books and finally got the offer to write my first kind of trade publication for my expertise, which is in resilience and emotional health for children. And I basically co-run this business with Colin and am a mum, full-time mum to our 2 kids. So I definitely had a lot of moments where I was like, is this a good decision?
Yeah, you would say to me, you were like, babe, I don't think I should write this book now.
Yeah. But I think the thing was, for me personally, being an author and a writer is really what I always wanted to do.
It's the most important career thing that you have. Like we always joke about the fact that, like you're not that interested in making money.
Well, yeah.
Like you are obviously.
No, but I love
you're
helping
also not.
people.
You just want to help people, right? Which is such a lovely thing.
I feel like I have 2 distinct sides of my personality. Yeah. One is like, let's entrepreneurial, let's take a risk, let's vision, let's get out and go for it. And the other side of me would like live in the countryside reading books and writing.
Yes.
In the quietness. So I have 2 sides. Anyway, we decided that, because of everything, we definitely said yes to writing the book. And I feel like I'm so very glad that I did. And also it was so very hard to do at the same time.
You were getting up
else.
early. You were writing late. You were, you're working with the publisher. You're going to launch it. I mean, you're coming into launch right now.
Well, I think by the time this goes to air, it will have already been announced.
Yeah. And so let's just do a quick plug for this. Because guys, seriously, this book is like freaking amazing. First of all, I mean, the cover design looks so good.
Yeah.
So the book's called Turn Down the Noise, Creating Emotional Health in a Chronically Overstimulated World.
Yeah, it's how to build an emotionally healthy family in a chronically overstimulated world.
Yeah. So it's a book helping parents to find a sense of peace in their family and what overstimulation looks like, how to spot it, how to spot high sensitivity in your child. How am I doing with this?
I was actually quite surprised. You're doing really good.
Like how to spot high sensitivity in you.
In yourself.
As a person, because you're a highly sensitive person. I'm not.
You're definitely not.
I'm not.
And also like how to grow in your own emotional regulation and maturity as a parent. And how to kind of create ongoing practices so your family is healthy.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like it's a full thought leadership book. Like it's built on science, proven strategies. And I feel like it's a really poignant topic in the context of our world at the moment, which is very overstimulated.
100%. And you're in the book. I tell some stories.
And I made the book. Yeah, so it's going to be good. Let's be honest. No, this idea of there's never a good time to launch it. And so your book, turndownthenoisebook.com?
Correct, yes.
Turndownthenoisebook.com. And you've also got some cool bonuses if people pre-order the book at the moment.
Yeah, we've got pre-order bonuses how to navigate an overstimulated child or teen, or how to create your own sensory calming pack, downloadable guides with links to it.
Yeah, so if they go to turndownthenoisebook.com and pre-order it, and then you just put in your receipt, they'll get instant access to those guides and packs and stuff like that. So if you have got a young child or a young teen, this is going to be phenomenal for you in terms of understanding practical strategy. It was funny, actually, your publisher literally wrote back to you and she was like, I read a lot of books, but there's few that I'm literally actioning and doing. And she said, this has truly changed my life.
Yeah.
And this is your publisher. saying that to you. So that's before you have even got feedback from my audience, which is going to be cool. So,
cool.
So guys, definitely go and check that out. I'm excited about her book. It's phenomenal. It's not just her opinion. It's literally science-based. I think it's going to be like one of the pivotal books in this industry. And I know that your heart, your mission is to truly create waves in the industry in this space. You've always had that very driven leadership side of you where you want to like leave a legacy. You know, you want this to be a book that impacts generations.
Yeah, I definitely do. I feel like it's very scary and sobering, the direction the mental health statistics are going with children and teens, as well as how many parents are just so overwhelmed and just trying their very best.
Yeah.
But just the world we're living in at the moment is just changing at such a pace that it feels like we can't keep up.
Yeah.
So I'm very committed. Hopefully it's been written in a way. My goal is always to write in a way that doesn't make parents feel worse about themselves, only ever feel better. I feel like there's way too much content out there that makes them feel horrible about themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, I love that. Guys, definitely go and check that out. It's the pre-orders out right now, so you can get access to that. The lesson was there's never a good time. There's never a good time.
So yeah, I was on plane flights to trips trying to work out cover designs. We were at business masterminds and I was reaching out for it was just everything was kind of happening. And I definitely emotionally had a lot of times where I was like, what have I done?
Yeah.
Like doing all of this at the same time and running the business with you. But at the same time, because it was one of those core things that I had felt called to do and it came in, I'm also so glad that I did it. And just pushing through that feeling of like, gosh, I wish conditions were better than what
conditions were perfect.
Conditions were perfect.
So there's never going to be a perfect conditions.
No.
Is essentially the thing. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, like even you might even be thinking, oh, we've got the holidays coming up. We're coming into your holiday season. You know, we're coming into Christmas and all that sort of stuff. And you're like, this isn't a good time. But there's actually never going to be a good time.
No.
Like, just launch it. A lot of the time, I know for us, whenever we're planning a launch, obviously there's like key holidays like July 4th or, you know, things like that. But so often, I mean, we've done Super Bowl Sunday openings so many times.
Yep.
Yeah, there were so many times where we were like, oh my gosh, like the dates don't work. Super Bowl's opening that day. And then I'm like,
I run the calendar in the business and I'm always like, okay, you guys have this tiny week. It's like the
you
best.
have 3 days within 365 days. That is the perfect days. Yeah. Everything else is not perfect. You know, we're doing massive promotions and it's like open car and it's Super Bowl Sunday. And I'm like, or like some other public holiday.
Right.
And I always say it to my students, like, there's never going to be a good time. Now, there are like really, really bad times, like July 4th or something like that, but also, or, you know, maybe Christmas Day. But what's interesting, I mean, one of our friends, she said her biggest webinar is always the day after Christmas, is it?
Yeah.
Which is called Boxing Day. Well, actually, one of my American friends said to me yesterday, he was like, you know, I do that on Boxing Day. And I was like, do you guys call that Boxing? I don't think they call it Boxing Day. But anyway.
I didn't know. Just
the day after
you can
Christmas,
make anything work with the right messaging and positioning of it.
Yes.
But I do think that thought is almost like a perfectionist thought that stops you from taking action, which is like, it's
really
not
just
ideal.
Fear.
It's because it is fear because you not only want to do it, but you want to do it and have everything feel really good. And the problem is when you're taking action or you're building something that you haven't done before, it doesn't feel good along the way.
Yeah. When you're taking live action.
Yeah. Thank you. I knew I was going to get teased.
So good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's tie a bow on this.
Wow, we've only got through 3.
We've got through 3 of 9. And so we've covered do more of what works. We've covered define success for your season. And there's never a good time to launch or grow something. By the way, if you haven't left a podcast review, please head down, leave a podcast review, take a screenshot of the review, of the written review, send it to me on Instagram, and I'll send over a little gift for you. And the only other action that you need to do is go and check out Sarah's book. Turn Down the Noise, book.com. There's some cool bonus packs that are only available at the moment. So definitely go and turn that out, especially if you're a parent or you know someone who is a parent. I mean, many of you are parents as well. Not everyone, but anyway, I don't even know what I'm saying. Definitely go check that out. Thanks for listening. We're going to do part 2. So make sure you're following the show. That's what it's called
Subscribe.
Now. It's called follow on Apple, iTunes, whatever it's called. Podcast is follow. But if you're watching on YouTube,
Hi.
it would be subscribe and you'll be seeing the video. Oh, we've got a YouTube channel, by the way. So definitely go and check that out as well if you want to see Sarah and I interacting.
He's the invisible woman.
In all of our
Colin Boyd's wife.
In all of our majesty. So bless you guys. We'll get ready for round 2 and have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.